Howdy folks, welcome to yet another edition of Smarter Money Matters with the Wealth Doctor, your Wealth Doctor, Jeff Camarda, and our Super CFPs, Lou and Anna. Today's topic is protecting against senior fraud, which I think you'll find it extremely worthwhile, particularly those of you that are in retirement age or near it. But to begin with, welcome to Smarter Money Matters. It's really your exclusive ticket to advance wealth wisdom that's hard to find elsewhere, from retirement, asset protection, and smart tax strategy, to paying way less in taxes, to expert trust and estate planning, investments, to insurance, and even real estate and business financial planning. We are your passport to more wealth with less hassle and friction. We try to be entertaining, clear, and to the point, and we make it fun to get richer with less work and less stress. So thanks for watching today's episode, which again is about senior fraud. And I'm not sure if folks really appreciate how much money is lost to the savings and estates of seniors across the country on an ongoing basis. And I thought it might be helpful first to kind of describe what fraud really is, right? And so there are 7 elements that are required for fraud in the United States. The first is the fraudster will represent something as an existing fact, that it's a material fact, that it really matters to the decision that you're trying to be duped into making. It's got to be false. The speaker has to know that it's false. The speaker's intent is that you, as a potential victim, would rely on this and act upon it. And obviously you would not know that it's false. The victim needs to rely on the truth of the representation and suffer consequent damages. And that's a whole mouthful of a bunch of legalese. But basically it boils down to, I tell Lou that I've got an investment that is guaranteed to return 20% a year, which is pretty much impossible, but I make it sound like it's true. He believes it's true. It's material. He's investing the cost of the purported guaranteed return, makes a decision, puts money in, and loses money, and has been damaged. That really is the essence, right? Yeah. And I tell you, this is so prevalent. This is something we hear horror stories in the news all the time, and unfortunately, many of our clients over the years have fallen victim. Do you have any recent stories?
I have, I do. I've got a couple clients at least that, especially with crypto nowadays, that have fallen for this type of scam where they're offering great returns in crypto, and turned out to be a scam. At least one of them, and maybe we'll have the guy as a future guest on the show. But yeah, that is more and more often than we'd like to see.
So what you're saying is somebody approached him or her, with a crypto investment.
Yes. That
turned out to be, just baloney, right? And did they actually lose money?
They lost a lot of money.
Yes. What's a lot?
About $1 million.
Oh my goodness gracious! And is that something that they bounced off of us first?
Yeah.
And we told them not to do it, and they still did it, right?
Unfortunately.
Happens all the time. These people can be very, very convincing. Do you have any stories?
Yeah, I mean, I've in my career interacted with clients that have been victims of a romance scam, similar situation, but they're approached as like a friend or a potential romantic partner.
The old pig butchering ploy.
Yes,
huh?
Exactly. And then slowly they get them to send money. And it can be, multi-hundred thousands of dollars before the person realized they're a victim.
Yeah. Which some obviously, well not obviously, but typically it's a false photograph, and I would love to come and join you. Yes, I need my money for my daughter and the plane ticket, and they kind of milk until the pig is laying there, breathless and bled out on the floor, right?
Yes.
And they make it seem like it's a very exclusive club. They don't want you to give this information away. They don't want you to talk to your advisor. They don't want you to talk to your family members. They kind of, it's between you and whoever's trying to scam you. They try to make it seem that they're doing it for your best interest. And unfortunately, a lot of times it's a scam.
It can be very compelling, especially for folks that are widows or widowers, and and get a little bit lonely later on. And it can be very enticing. You have to be careful, folks. You really do. The FBI has seen a steady rise in the number of cases of investment fraud. Since 2008, cases have increased by 52%. And today, seniors are falling victim to these schemes with some regularity. And some of the buzzwords are low or no risk investments, guaranteed or higher returns than bank accounts, and some so-called advisors. And remember, we'll get into being careful with advisors toward the end of the episode. But they will even prey on seniors' religious or ethnic groups or other common interests to build trust and build a relationship before moving in for the kill. 60% of the fraud-related complaints that have been received were focused on critical areas of contact. 45% were from email, and 11% from an internet website. Right, so that's well over half that were electronic. And email is a really, really big danger area for a lot of reasons, and that we'll get into, like phishing and so forth. So some of the things that, in order for fraud to be successful, they have to get your trust, right? Nobody's going to write a check to somebody they don't trust and think is acting in their best interest or got something good. So often they will make up designations. They might claim to be an advisor when they're not even a licensed advisor. They can use a company name similar to, like Camarda. There's a fraudster that we identified, Google actually identified and hooked it up with us. It's called Vincent Camarda up in New York. I have no idea who he is, but playing off the name of recognized institutions that people trust. And they can create the impression that often that the elder has been chosen or is lucky and is told not to tell anybody. There's kind of exclusive deals, a limited number of people that qualify for this. So don't even tell your advisor. And that's another thing, folks. When you get, if you probably will have already received a lot of these, ask us if you're a Camarda client, or ask your trusted advisor or your attorney or your CPA for their opinion on the proposition. This obviously will give you information to help to understand what's going on and help make a better decision.
Yeah, absolutely. And what you bring a point that something reminded me of a client that I had last year here, with our Schwab platform, right? So what they can do, and I'm not sure exactly how this works. You may have more intel on this, but they basically pay Google scammer or hacker to move a false Schwab link when they Google it. They move it up at the top of the list. So
I don't think we want to imply that Google is complicit in this, but I think that what they may do is by basically buying ads, so it's a hit that
so it appears to be
legitimate,
yeah.
With some keywords in there, so it comes up earlier in the Google search.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it appears to be a company that you trust and believe, your bankers, Schwab, whatever the case may be, but it's actually the scammer's website.
And you see that a lot with phishing, right? I mean, so with phishing basically is you get an email that appears to be from a legitimate source, but it has links in there that if you click, they can get access to your computer and steal confidential information. And some of these are pretty slick, right? Did you have any recent that you recall?
I mean, even in, I've had clients over the years, receive phishing emails. When I worked at my prior employer, we saw it very commonly. They were a very large institution, and like Lou was talking about, they would send these phishing emails that looked legit, trying to prompt clients to log in with their login credentials, that then the hackers or scammers would take and then use to access client accounts. And I think it's more and more common with email and even texting, some of these different
I get 5 or 6 a day sometimes.
Yeah.
And some of them are very obvious. Some of them are very, very, carefully done, where it looks like it comes from DocuSign or a bank or a brokerage house, Social Security, whatever. And you have to really, really be careful. So often that if you look at where the email is sent from, it's going to appear to not be a legitimate address. It might be, I'll just use Camarda. It might be Camarda Advisors, .biz or something like that. So it's got the Camarda name in it, but it's not our legitimate domain. Very often somewhere in the messages it's urgent, you have to act now, you only have 30, minutes or a day or whatever, otherwise this opportunity would pass. And why do they do that, you think?
To create a sense of urgency and just to dupe you to do it sooner, so you don't have to think about it, you don't reach out to your trusted contacts and so on, yeah.
Yeah, you make a foolish decision based on incomplete information because you leap in with both feet really before you look down. That's probably the best way to tell, especially some of the sophisticated ones.
Yeah.
But I can tell you they always are instructing or trying to induce you to click on a link in order to get your statement, or here's your bill, or if you qualify for your refund, or to get your check, whatever, just click here. And once you do that, that allows their malicious code to enter your computer, right?
Sure.
You don't want to click on those links. So one of the big, scams, Ponzi schemes, which have been around, I think, for over 100 years, something like that, right? And of course, we all remember the really big one from about 15 years ago, Bernie Madoff, the retirement of Bernie's, and a Ponzi scheme basically is this. The fraudster will guarantee or suggest that you'll get unreasonable returns. And they take money in, so maybe Lou is the first investor, and I get some money from Lou, and then I induce Anna to invest, and I take some of her money and give it to him, so the return appears to be from investments, but you're building a bigger and bigger base of investors and skimming off those and spreading the money around. And obviously the scheme fails when, if it's undetected, it fails when you run out of investors, because the fraudster has taken most of the money. You have to be careful, folks. You really, really do. So, typically there's a lot of schemes with legitimate appearing investments like precious metals, gemstones, real estate, stocks and bonds, annuities, loans, and other investments. And very often, folks are induced to invest based on unrealistic expectations of returns. And even by advisors. Advisors is a big spectrum, as we've talked about in previous shows. To get an investment advisor's license typically is very easy. To get a security sales license or a life insurance license to sell annuities, it is not that difficult. And a lot of folks don't even have those, but they purport to. But there are, a number of licensed advisors that maybe engage in unscrupulous sales practices, selling things like annuities or other investments that by misstating what the actual terms are, inducing people to put money in, and they get their commission, they're gone, right? Have you seen, many of these?
Yeah, sure. We've had our clients. We've had our clients that we had to kind of walk off some similar requests for us to send them money to go into something similar type of investments. So. Yeah,
and if you look at our blog at Camarda.com, there's a bunch of blog posts that are queued up about what I call, real life annuity horror stories from our practice over the decades. Really, this is just incredible. And these were really all legitimate, insurance products that were missold. And to the great misfortune of a lot of people who put money in it. Just the stuff that, for instance, I've seen annuities where guaranteed return, can't lose money, and I read the contract, and the guarantee is you get 80% of your money back. That's the guarantee, a 20% loss. But you have to read the fine print or you won't know. And the salesman who's making a big commission probably would tell you that. Do you have any stories that you'd like to add, Anna?
I mean, I would just say, again, with the rise of social media and texting, more technology, a lot of these different, investments that are being offered to clients, like crypto and even, gemstones, precious metals, types of things, they can come through those different sources, right? They might reach out through an Instagram account, a Facebook account, right, to try and get a hold of you. And again, it's not legitimate. If there is a sense of urgency or something doesn't seem right, reach out to a trusted advisor, like your financial advisors, and they'd be happy to review it with you.
Yeah, and even if you're not a Camarda client, we'd be very happy to take a look at that for you as well, just in the interest of public service. So another area, of frequent fraud of prizes and sweepstakes, right? And I'm not going to say Publishers Clearinghouse, but you won a prize and $500,000, whatever, and all you need to do is pay a $500 redemption fee.
Yeah.
And it's a way to skim off bits of money by duping you into thinking you have a lot more money coming when, of course, it's all just fabricated. Another area that I really wasn't aware of, reverse mortgages, which is can be a real swamp of an industry. Those that have been government guaranteed, last time I studied it, were a little bit, were significantly more legitimate, I think. But reverse mortgages has emerged as an area of real abuse for the elderly. And the reason is that, reverse mortgage, the pitch is really nice, right? Sign up, get the mortgage, you don't have to make any payments.
You don't have to home.
You get a lump sum, you can stay there until until you pass on. But, the charges and cost and usurious interest rates can completely consume the value of the asset. And when you finally check out, your kids don't get nearly what you thought they would.
Yeah.
And this, I was surprised actually. I wasn't aware of this. It's become, quite a problem. There was a quote from this report that disreputable lenders can lead to extremely high interest rates. It's added back to the loan, eventually eating away the value of the home because the capital sum and the accrued interest is repaid to the lender only when the homeowner moves or dies. The effect can have a surprising and devastating impact on the estate for the heirs.
Yeah.
And another area, of frequent abuse is final expenses, right? And we won't get too much into this, but those of you that have suffered through a family death and had to arrange, the funeral and so forth, it's a time of great vulnerability and grief. And it's really, really easy to be taken advantage of. I want the best, and this coffin and that coffin. You should shop it and think it out in advance when you have a clear head, because it's really easy to spend far more money than makes sense or is even appropriate, or affordable in some cases. But I wasn't aware that, a lot of pre-need insurance contracts, and these are often sold by funeral directors who make commissions on the insurance sale, but they name themselves as a beneficiary of the policy. Can you believe that?
Wow.
Yeah. You pay for it, and then when you die, I get the money. Okay, right? Plus you still get a bill for the casket, maybe. So you really, really have to be careful. I think we'll skip timeshares and the Nigerian letter and so forth, and talk a little bit about identity theft, which really, I know that several of our clients have become victims of this, and it's so easy, particularly with technology, and as you get older and you're not as tech adept, it's easy to miss something or believe something or think it's coming from the bank. Do you have any recent stories?
I've had one just this Friday.
You're just full of stories.
It's ongoing. This is a very hot topic in the industry, and we just had one on Friday this past week. A client, it appeared to be a client of ours that reached out to me via email, and we've communicated through email before. There's no red flags there, but it was a scammer. And they made the email sound very, very urgent. Put the red exclamation mark on it, all that, and said, "I'm out of town. Please wire it." They had the wire instructions on there for me to send funds to this account somewhere. And sure enough, that's just the urgency, the way that the email was written. I could see that he wasn't a client, and obviously our procedure is to reach out to clients and make sure that we get verified and get verbal authorization and stuff like this. But right away, I picked up that this wasn't the client, and if she's watching this show, she'll probably she'll know who she is. But it's still so they're in her email, and they're actually sending emails from her email. But as soon as they send it out, they go in and delete it, so there's no trace that they actually sent it out. So
Did you catch that? That's worth saying again, because that's a slick trick. That why don't you explain that again?
So in a way, they got access to her computer and logged in. Or actually
maybe because of a phishing attempt where she clicked on a link. And they put some code on the computer, and now the fraudster is able to actually send emails out that appear to come from this client. Right?
Correct. It's coming from her email. It's her legitimate email, but as soon as they send it out, they go in there, they delete the email, and they delete any type of trace.
So she doesn't see it.
She doesn't see it. She doesn't know it's there, but I got it, and it comes from her. And she almost didn't believe me. She's like, "I'm going to my email. I'm in my sent files. Can't see anything in there, Lou." But sure enough, I showed her the screenshot, and she believed me. Then she took it to the Greek.
And this is the kind of thing like, I'm stranded in Aspen. I need $100,000 immediately. Wire it to this account number. Thanks, Lou. Right?
Very
that's
similar.
The kind of thing it would
very
say.
very similar plot. Yes. Yeah. So it's more, and we see it more, unfortunately, more than we would like to, and it's getting even more and more prevalent now with technology, with AI, like Anna was saying, and it's scary.
Without question. There's so many different tendrils, So let's talk a little bit more about identity theft. In order to steal your identity, the criminal has to get little bits of information. So security number, account numbers, what we call confidential financial information in our cybersecurity training. And there's a lot of ways to get that, through email, through phishing, right?
Sure.
By sharing, by not by not using encryption software. So when we deal with Camarda clients and folks that are considering using us, and we look at confidential documents, We always tell you to use a document upload link, which puts it through an encryption process so that somebody can't hack it and open the document. Only you can send it encrypted as like a code, and you need the code on the other end in order to open a document, which keeps it safe. But if you just attach documents to emails, and you are hacked somehow, and there's a million ways to get hacked these days, and you send an email with an investment statement with your account number on it and your address, now that's some key information that a criminal can use to access your accounts. And the more information they have, the bigger the profile, the easier it is to steal your identity and to steal your money. And it's not all just electronic. There's dumpster diving, right? Where if you throw away statements, and it says even if you throw in the smelly garbage, with dirty diapers and banana peels, they still will go in there with gloves and so forth. And thieves will search trash using gloves and a fan if they must when looking for sensitive documents that contain any type of personal information, social security numbers, any type of account numbers, credit card information, bank statements, brokerage confirms, passwords that you put on a post-it, whatever. So you really, really need to be careful if you're still getting paper statements and other documents that contain sensitive information. Get a shredder or burn it, or find someone to destroy it, because odds are somebody's crawling through your trash. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but sooner or later.
Get into wrong hands.
That's right. And another, corollary is shoulder surfing. I hadn't heard that term before. Where you may see somebody, a young person like Anna maybe come up and you're using the ATM or writing a check, and she looks like that she's playing a game on her phone. She's actually, not that Anna would ever do this, of course, but she's the youngest one in the room, they're actually recording your transaction using the video on the phone. Now they see your keystrokes on the keypad, they see what's up on the screen, they get enough information, they can probably go in and do it once you leave the ATM and pull out some money themselves. Now, so you really got to be so careful, so careful. And also, do you know what ATM skimmers and handheld skimmers are, you guys?
The machine that you put onto your ATM, is that what it is? The
No.
Visa card?
You know what it is?
Yeah, it's a piece of technology that people will put over a card slot, or on a gas station's a really common one where they can, you insert your card to pay for gas, right, or to pay for something at the store, and they pull your information off of the card. It's extremely common practice for people to access bank accounts, access money in bank accounts, PIN numbers, that type of information.
Yeah, it happened to me at a restaurant. Don't use your debit card, use your credit card so that you can dispute the charges. It's happened to me with a legitimate restaurant.
Or sometimes it's just the waiter or the waitress copying it down.
Sure.
They're taking a picture of both sides of the card, But the skimmer is a device Anna was mentioning that basically reads, it's able to interact with the magnetic and the chip that's on the card, and to read the information off of there to capture your in this case your credit card information. It's common at airports. It doesn't have to be right next to the card either. You can see somebody, we used to have an FBI agent that was a client of ours that actually used to teach this at some client events, where you can even be across the aisle, depending on the power of the device, and it's kind of like spyware, waving over. And that's why, a lot of wallets these days, I'm not sure if you do, but you want to get a wallet that's basically like shielding in it. So if I pass a skimmer, they are not able to access the card information that's in here. Available on Amazon at reasonable prices. I know because I'm a customer. All right, so we talked a little bit about phishing, right?
Yes.
And just to summarize that, the sender poses as a brokerage firm, bank, credit card company, internet auction site, eBay, a host of different areas, electronic payment center, or some other financial services provider, or really, or vendor. The email appears to be genuine, utilizing the same logo, links to the fraudster's website, and even uses names of real people. Subject lines typically include the following: urgent, your account can be shut down if you don't respond, need to update your account, recent change to the law required to update this information, or to protect your account from theft, please verify your information, just click here and give it all to me. A Symantec intelligence report stated that 45% of phishing scams detected that year spooked banks. This is really, really common. And one way to tell is you look carefully. Often the logo's off by a little bit, or misspellings in there. A lot of this originates obviously from outside of the U.S. But some of it is pretty obvious. Some of it, if you don't look at it carefully, you'll miss it. Some of it is very, very good. It looks authentic. You know, so you got the key for these things is they're trying to dupe you into clicking on a link, and once you do, they've got spyware on your machine, and you got to be really, really careful. All right, so as you wrap up, guys, it's been a longer segment, but I think very interesting and critical information. And please pass it on to family, friends, and other folks that you think might be exposed. But a couple of quick things. You got to be careful with advisors. That's one of my biggest beef on my academic research area is advisor credentials and ethics and misconduct, malpractice. But 79% of respondents, and these people that have been defrauded, did not check their broker's background for law violations. Go to broker check, and if there are public, disclosures about fines or suspensions or other problems, you can get a lot of information on broker check. Not for insurance people, but for securities people. 65% didn't check the registration of their investment advisor representative, whether they even licensed or registered with a firm. We're just making it up. 60% of the targeted respondents chose a broker based on the recommendation of a relative, friend, or coworker, not based on their own research or the credentials of the advisor. And while that seems right, John wouldn't use them if they were good, John probably didn't look either. You have to be careful. Also, you have to be careful with designations. There are so many letters out there, and believe me, I know most of them are not worth a hill of beans. The most recognized and the most important in my view is a certified financial planner, which the coursework I completed decades ago, and Lou and Anna are CFPs. But there's so many other letters that don't really indicate that there's much expertise there. It's kind of just like, and they're easy to get. Sometimes they're just made up. But the CFP and the CFA are the hallmarks of really legitimate designations in my mind. But there's a lot of fraud, that where people are, relying on designations and apply expertise, and it's really just kind of part of a sales scam. The other concern is, most financial fraud against seniors is perpetrated by who? Do you know who?
Family, I believe.
Family members, yeah. Or people trying to get grandma's money or their children, that want to take advantage and get the money before it's split up in inheritance. So one thing to be very, very careful about is seniors' powers of attorney, making sure that if you give someone the power of attorney, you know what you're giving and you want to. A power of attorney is an extremely powerful, unchecked instrument. If Lou gives me a power of attorney, then I can sign his name and sell his house and clean out his bank accounts. I can act as if I'm Lou and take all his money. It's extremely, extremely powerful, and while useful as part of estate planning and asset and other control planning, I think trusts are a much safer ways to go. All right, so as we're running out of time here, any last minute stories here?
No, I think we've covered. I can go on and on about this, but for the sake of time, I think we've had enough for.
Any quick quips from Anna?
I mean, trust your gut. If something doesn't seem right, it's always worth a second look.
Yeah, and don't rush in. Fools rush in where angels fear to go. And on that note, thank you for suffering through yet another edition of Smarter Money Matters. Until next week, we really enjoyed sharing this with you. Please pass it on, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.